scoop here that Josh Brownhill is highly likely to be West Ham's first signing of the transfer window, or next signing. They're both the same thing, really, aren't they? Basically, the most likely signing West Ham are going to make at this point right now is Josh Brownhill from Burnley. Well, I say from Burnley, he won't be contracted to anybody. That was the news last night. Had it on pretty good authority that he had been in really advanced talks with West Ham very recently, and I don't mean like within the last month or two. I mean this week. Seriously advanced talks. There's West Ham and there's someone else, and apparently we're leading the chase. This is going to be, I was going to say, a feather in the cap for the club. I don't want to be too mean, because we chased Angel Gomes for quite some time and did it really badly, did a really, really bad job. In fact, I go as far as to say West Ham were incompetent and a bit of an embarrassment, really, in the way that we chased Angel Gomes. And in the fullness of time, what actually happened there will probably come out, will probably be revealed, and it don't look too clever. But from one failed free transfer, we haven't spent too much time licking our wounds. It looks like we've gone out and been able to get another one. I mean, I don't want to concentrate too much on the negatives, because we posted this story up as an exclusive last night over on Patreon at about 8:30 last night, and somebody on the Patreon comments said, because it is a little bit underwhelming as a signing, this is underwhelming, but somebody said, I've stopped being underwhelmed by signings ever since we signed Craig Dawson. And I read that, I thought, you know what? It's absolutely right, actually. In fact, who wrote that? I'm going to get the correct comment. There you go. It was James. James said, the Craig Dawson signing taught me that underwhelming signings can sometimes surprise you. So if this happens, let's just have some room for some optimism. Yeah, do you know what? I completely agree. I remember doing a video, actually, live when it became clear that we were signing Dawson initially on loan. And yeah, it did seem pretty underwhelming. What a great signing he was, by the way. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is necessarily going to be a great signing, but we are getting someone 29 years of age who's sort of at the peak of his powers. Look, Gio's going to be along later on to do a video, and he'll look at his stats and he'll scratch below the surface. So I'm not going to. I'll leave all that to Gio. Suffice to say, he scored 18 goals in the Championship last season, which was by far his most successful output. Burnley got promoted. I think he's not the only player that Burnley won't be able to keep hold of. So they're going to really struggle, I think, in the Premier League next season. Free transfer, as I said, and I think let's looking at the positives here. High energy player, seems to have a little bit of everything, box to box. At times he runs well into the box. Good fitness, good tackler. And I think what this plays into is the other stuff that we've been hearing probably for the last month now, which is James Ward-Prowse is available for transfer. Now, that in itself, as an isolated bit of news, doesn't seem, that sensational, really, does it? But when you consider that Thomas Souček's up for sale, Edson Alvarez is up for sale, Guido Rodriguez is up for sale, actually, the fact that Ward-Prowse would be as well is probably a little bit surprising, particularly bearing in mind Potter brought him back off loan. He was sat in the stiffs, wasn't he, basically, at Nottingham Forest. Couldn't get a game, and why should he be able to get a game? They were doing absolutely magnificently without the need for him in midfield. But we brought him back, although it was quite telling. Potter didn't bring him back immediately. He waited until the very end of the transfer window. So one can only assume maybe he was trying to bring somebody in, couldn't bring anybody in, so he brought Ward-Prowse back. But once Ward-Prowse was brought back, it was quite obvious that he was a big part of things with Potter. He was quite a big part of the Potter plan, if you want. So I think majority of people, certainly myself included, presumed Ward-Prowse would be around the following season. But no, he's not wanted. And actually, when you factor in that West Ham are chasing the Bruges midfielder, whose name escapes me, I mentioned it on yesterday's video, when you factor in that West Ham are chasing that guy as well, and we are in talks, then you can probably understand why we're looking to offload these players. Andy Irving as well, but as we understand it, Freddie Potts is going to play quite a big role, quite a big squad role next season. So almost immediately you've got look, two of the guys we've not signed yet, but you got 3 midfielders there, so that would very much be perhaps the overhaul or part of it that Potter was looking for. I think Brownhill will probably be an okay signing. And I'm probably doing him down. I don't want to do him a disservice, which I probably am doing. But also, I don't want to sit here and start pretending. It'd be disingenuous of me to sit here and start telling you how wonderful I think Josh Brownhill is going to be. Look, West Ham have actually been after this guy for a long time. David Moyes was used to chase him, and not literally, of course, but he was well known to him, and we were linked with him on at least 2 occasions when Moisey was here. But he used to play at Preston, and I've always felt that anybody that he didn't really come through the Preston Academy. I think he was at the Manchester United Academy, then moved from Manchester United to Preston. I think that's how it went. But I'd always felt that anybody that had been at Preston or sort of come through or done well as a youngster there, we were always going to be linked to him. It's just the way that sort of things tended to happen under Moyes anyway. Not that they all ended up signing for West Ham, but there was that speculation there. But he's a decent enough player. I think if this turns out to be true and this one goes through, and as I say, I do think it's the most likely transfer to happen at this point as we sit here, in discussion on Saturday morning, it would mean that actually maybe some of the things that I was fearing that West Ham weren't going to do early business would be unfounded. It would mean that we had been doing some bits and pieces. Because if it actually turns out that actually we have been bidding for this guy and we've already got the deal wrapped up with advanced talks, possibly the deal is done by now. That's I was told late last night. Don't be surprised if the deal is already done. If we're doing that, if we're also in well advanced talks for Stassin the Assassin and the fellow at Bruges whose name escapes me, then you would have to conclude, even if you don't particularly like the players, that West Ham have been busy and have been active. And probably not spending a lot of money in doing so. We were always going to have to bring in some free transfers. I just felt that was going to be the case. I think the 2 biggest ones we've already mentioned one in Gomes, the other one Jonathan David. We never stood a chance to Jonathan David, and I feel like I've spent more time discussing Angel Gomes on this channel than was probably necessary. But the trouble was every time we were told, and even at some point by someone very, very close to Gomez's representatives, that he did not want to come to West Ham. He did not like. He thought West Ham's offer was derisory and the lowest. West Ham's bid for Gomes was the lowest of all the bids. The story would still resurface again, so you'd feel you'd have to sort of dismiss the rumour basically. So even though those were the 2 main free transfers, there was always going to be the case that maybe if West Ham could get a Brownhill or I'm not entirely sure what CJ Egan-Riley's contractual situation is with regard to his age and tribunal stuff and his contract, and there is an option there and stuff like that. But certainly in terms of Carl Walker-Peters, there are options there and players that we could possibly go for to look to bring in and sort of save ourselves a little bit of money and do a little bit of squad padding, something like that. Look, overall, I'll be pleased if we can start getting some players in. But this is not a world beater. A signing like this doesn't make the difference between whether you can stay in the Premier League or not stay in the Premier League. This just allows you to get rid of one of the others, and then if the next move after this is to go and get rid of Edson Alvarez, let's say, and we get 25 million for Edson Alvarez, then we brought someone in on a free transfer and got 25 million then, which we can go and spend on another position. I would understand the logic behind that, even if it's not the most thrilling and exciting transfer. But if he signs, I'll welcome him to West Ham, absolutely. I mean, as I say, he scored 18 goals last season. He looks to be a decent enough player. So, and, coming to West Ham in the prime, in his prime at 29. So, you're not, it's not like signing Ward-Prowse for 25 million when he was 28 years of age. You're getting a 29-year-old for free, basically. So that in itself is good. Right, I'm going to love you and leave you now. I'll do a news roundup later on today because I'm sure other stuff is going to happen. I would imagine this deal is 80% certain or something like that at the moment. As I say, it seems like it is relatively highly likely. Just one final thing before I go. Don't forget Hammers Chat store. We got a sale on. The store is closing down. Get the old violin out. The hammerschatstore.com. Closing down, which means there's some good bargains for anybody that is looking for a West Ham idea for themselves or a present for somebody else. Father's Day present. There you go. Go and check it out.